Hi there, virtual passengers, and welcome aboard the Cessna. Today we are doing a tour of the Nile. So one of the airlines that I've joined does a number of different tours and events. And one of the ones that I quite like the look of is the Nile. So we're basically going to be airport hopping and following the Nile as closely as possible. So we're going to be leaving from Entebbe Airport today and heading northeast to a town called Jinja, where the Nile is, the source of the Nile is located just outside of Victoria Falls. And then we're going to be effectively following the river all the way up, and we're going to be landing in a place called Nakan Sagola. It is a military airfield, so it doesn't show on Navigraph, and it doesn't show on a new system I'm using, which is Little Nav Map. As you can, and I'll go through that in just a minute, but as you can see, we've got a nice livery on this plane. This was actually developed by one of the members of the virtual airline, and the airline was set up by one of the YouTubers that I follow. And I must say, if you want to get some more details about the airline, please, let me know in the comments, and I can send them through to you. The airline itself is absolutely fantastic. The members of the community, it's a really active membership on Discord and things of that nature, and I've learned quite a lot from them, and I'm actually quite enjoying being a member of the team, or at least a member of the airline. And as I say, the liveries being designed by one of the members for free is absolutely fantastic. So as I mentioned earlier on, I'm using a different system for navigation today. We're using something called Little Nav Maps. This is freeware. And it, just bear with me and I'll bring it up for you. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Right. It's freeware, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to use it for all of my flights, but certainly for some of these shorter ones I'm going to. We've got a plugin called Transmitter, which means that anybody else that is currently using Transmitter or is using Little Nav Map will be able to see my plane. But you can see here that we're going to be leaving from Entebbe today, and looking at the METAR, it's saying that there's winds of 4 knots coming from 200, and it's preferring runway 17. So we're going to take off from runway 17. We're then going to climb, probably end up going across the equator up to our cruising altitude of 5,000 feet. And then we're then going to make a left turn. So I'm going to use the autopilot heading all the way up to waypoint number 1. We're going to be heading up for 50 miles at 061 degrees. And then we're going to come into Jinja here. This is where the Nile starts, so I will probably interrupt the wonderful cruise music that I normally put on just to let you know that we're on the Nile. And then we're effectively going to be following the river all the way up to Lake Kyoga. Once we've hit Lake Kyoga, we're then going to take a left turn at 265 degrees, and for 20 miles we're going to head down towards the runway. I'm assuming that the wind is going to be the same, so we're probably going to just do a straight in. So as you can see, it says special area here because it's a military airport. So I'm probably going to come in slightly north of it and then turn around and land. I'm not sure what the elevation is or anything of that nature. We're just going to take that as it comes. And as I say, cruising altitude today will be 5,000 feet. So without further ado, what I'm going to do now is go in and set the plane up. And I'll speak to you again when we're holding short at the runway. Speak to you soon. Welcome back, virtual passengers. Here we are lined up on runway 17. As you can see, I've set the autopilot to give us an altitude of 5,000, and we're going to be climbing up to that 74 knots, which is the ideal climb speed. And I've got the taxi lights turned off, I've got the landing lights on, the nav lights and the strobe lights all on. I am hoping to record this takeoff, and I've also set the flaps as well. I've leaned the engine, so with these you have to lean the engine, which is reduce the amount of fuel due to the fact that we're currently nearly 4,000 feet up in the air elevation. We don't need as much fuel as there isn't as much oxygen going into the engine, so I've leaned the engine a bit just to reduce the amount of fuel usage. So as I said in the pre-flight brief, we're going to look to climb up to 5,000 feet, and then we're going to make a left turn and start to join the track when you can start to enjoy the cruise. And we'll obviously then follow the Nile all the way up to the lake and then turn left with a look to landing. So without further ado, let's take off the parking brake, rev the engine up to 1,000 to make sure it holds, and that it holds steady. Yep, holding steady. Full throttle, brakes off, and we're rotating at 55 knots today. So just wait for the speed brake to come up, speed tape to come up, a little bit of left rudder, speed tape is alive, 30 knots. It's a bit of an uphill runway this, 40 knots. Plane just wants to get up in the air, 50 knots, 55 knots, rotate. And we're up, keep current heading. As we continue to climb. At a good 74 knot rate. There we go, and there's the runway behind us. 4,000 feet, flaps up. Climbing at nearly 1,000 feet per minute. We're going slightly off the runway course, not a massive issue. Autopilot on. Heading mode. Once we've got to 5,000 feet, I'll then put it onto the heading mode, which will start to turn us to the left. So as you can see with little nav map here, I'm currently taken off. We're going to be turning around in about 400 feet time. We're probably just going to cross the equator, and then we're going to turn left and start heading towards our first waypoint up here at Jinja. Okay, landing lights, all the lights will stay on. Okay, that's us at altitude, so I'm now going to put it into heading mode. Reduce the throttle down to cruise throttle, which is about 2,400. Increase the range on here now. Can't increase the range any further than that. I think that's because it hasn't got my waypoints. Oh, there you go. Having a funny 5 minutes. I bet it hasn't got the airport that we're landing at on here anymore. No, it hasn't. Is it? Have a look. Yes, it has. Hunk is where we're landing. So we're less than 100 miles, but more than 75 miles away. So we'll keep that range going. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoy the cruise, and I'll speak to you again as we get to the mouth of the Nile. And then you can enjoy some more of the cruise before we get ready for landing. So speak to you soon. Disturb your relaxing cruise. As you can see below me here, this is the start of the Nile. So what I'm going to do is just look, I've turned the autopilot off now. We're basically going to be following the Nile all the way up to Lake Kyoga. So I'm just checking, just retrimming to keep 5,000 feet as my level, because I've now turned the autopilot off because I don't want to use the heading mode. But here is the beginning of the Nile. Welcome back, viewers. I hope you enjoyed the cruise. We're about 4 miles away from the runway, and I think I could just see the flashing lights here. So I'm effectively heading straight in on the runway at the moment. When I'm about 2 miles away, I'm going to start to do the turn into the downwind leg, slow down, and get my flaps deployed. I have already dropped down to pattern altitude, which is about 1,000 feet up, and the runway is about 1,000 feet. Sorry, 3 to 3,500 feet in elevation. So yeah, it looks like I can see the runway there. Yep, that is definitely the runway. There. You can just about see some flashing lights. So what we're going to do now is get ourselves prepared for the landing. Okay, so 2.5 miles away. Just want to be about 1.5 miles away, and then I'll start the turn. Turn the autopilot off, slow down, and get going. So we're going to turn and do a 90-degree leg. Sorry, turn roughly 90 degrees, so to about 010, maybe just less. I think it's a tarmacked runway. Okay, autopilot is now coming off. Okay, start to reduce the throttle so that I don't continue climbing. There's the runway below me. I'm going to be descending at about 500 feet a minute, so probably not that fast. So we're just going to head out to the lake, slowly descending, and then we're going to, or at least trying to keep our altitude about the same as it is now. So about 4,500, just using the trim and throttle. Good, okay. Start slowing down anyway. Okay. 84 knots, so we'll put flaps 1 down. It's going to give me a bit of lift, and then the plane will settle down. There we go. And pick up speed. I want to get my speed back up to about 80 odd knots if I can. And then we'll do the turn. Okay, I'm going to turn now. Keep speed about 70, 75 knots, it's good. Keep the altitude about the same. There's the runway there, start to reduce our altitude a bit quicker. Flaps 2. Got a long runway here to play with, so. No. So throttle's almost off. Just almost gliding in now. Keep an eye on that descent rate. Aiming for the threshold. Flaps 2 will be more than enough for this landing. Always a fine balance between throttle and pitch on this plane. A slight crosswind coming in from the left, but nothing too major. I'm going to park right up at the end there if we can. Just to the left there. Nicely done, should be nicely centered. What we'll do is rather than taxi all the way to the end, or no, we're going to actually just pick up a taxiway, I think. Cut the throttle, slowly but surely. Keep us flared. Yeah, nice soft touchdown. There we go. Bit of throttle just to keep the plane going. Keep us on the centre line. We should be coming up to a taxiway. Good. Kill the throttle. Drop the speed down. Turn off on this taxiway. Flaps up. Clear the runway, taxi lights on, landing lights off, taxi lights off, strobe off. On nav lights and strobe. Right, so I am going to taxi. It looks like there's an apron here. Just up here on the left. So I'm just going to taxi to that one, I think, and park up there. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that. The start of the Nile, and as I say, over the next sort of 17, 18 legs we're going to follow the Nile all the way up to the Mediterranean. So hopefully in the later legs obviously we'll be going through Egypt, so we should be able to see the pyramids, which would be nice, and hopefully we'll see some lovely sights on the way round as well. Oh sorry, on the way up. I'm just going to park up here. Parking brake on. Guys, remember, if you enjoyed the content, please feel free to like, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber to the channel. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.